Aside from the subject of people blaming all the world's issues and violence and trouble on Black people, I wanted to discuss a little bit more about the eating disorder that I survived. So it has thankfully been years since I struggled with an eating disorder, and being a survivor of that too, I just kind of wanted to touch base on that and talk about how many years I went since 8th grade and middle school up into my early to middle 20s. I'd say I got better from my eating disorder when I was 25 years old. That's when things started looking up and I was actually recovering, genuinely recovering from my eating disorder. But when I had struggled with my eating disorder for the first time, I was in 8th grade. And I was throwing up a lot. That's when I started not being able to eat regular meals. I had to drink Ensure drinks. I had to basically do a lot of things that meal supplement drinks in order to get the right amount of nutrition in me. I went to swallow studies and different forms of therapy and different doctor's appointments and doctors who specialized in eating disorders. Specifically eating disorders, just like I went to therapy for specific kinds of trauma and people who have diagnoses like CPTSD, depression, anxiety, like I do. So, years and years of going through an eating disorder since middle school, I had experienced a lot of issues with feeling weak. Like I said, I couldn't eat regular meals, anything that wasn't the same consistency as like soup, and I mean soup with like no chicken, no noodles or anything in it, just like broth basically, or applesauce. Anything outside of that, as far as food goes, when it comes to solid foods, I couldn't eat for a long fucking time. No pizza, no chicken wings, no tacos, no ribs, none of that. Pork, bacon, like I couldn't eat any of that. I couldn't even eat noodles. I was so sick from my eating disorder for a long time, and that's another thing that people didn't really know about me is and how sick I actually got with my eating disorder, and all of the things that I couldn't actually have without getting really, really sick and throwing up, and or once again winding up in the hospital, because I wasn't just winding up in the hospital because of self-harm and suicide attempts. I was also winding up in the hospital a lot back then because of my eating disorder and because of how fucking sick that shit used to make me, like not being able to have much energy. I was feeling dizzy a lot. I was malnourished. I didn't have a lot of a real balanced diet in me. I had Ensure drinks, meal supplement drinks within me that are supposed to replace a lot of that stuff, and it is good for you, and it did do somewhat good, but I still felt sick because I was on a lot of medication still, and that's another thing another way that I was abused growing up is I was put on a lot of prescription drugs, a lot of medications that I should have never been put on because it was very dangerous and detrimental to my physical and mental health. But I was put on all of those medications because everybody claimed that that it was going to work, and I was sick at the time, so they were using that. I just felt like I was being exploited. I felt like the doctors and the people at that time especially long before I started getting treatment and going through recovery over the years. When it came to my eating disorder is concerned, I felt like a lot of people were exploiting me, and they were just trying to get paid. And they do get paid a lot of money by prescribing people medications. You know, people don't always realize when doctors and psychiatrists and certain people prescribe individuals medications, prescription medications for different issues that they're having with their mental and physical health, like I was, they get paid a lot of money for it. And that's really all that they fucking cared about, to be honest with you. That's how I felt. Like all these people, the only thing that they care about is their money and their paychecks. They don't care about me and my well-being, and having to battle all of these health issues mentally and physically, from my eating disorder to the mental health issues that I was having through everything that happened to me. I was like, fuck, these people are just money hungry. Even some of the counselors, like the psychiatrists that I had, were money hungry, and the only thing that they cared about was getting a paycheck. And, you know, from throwing up a lot, to being really weak, to just spending hours and hours like lying down because I didn't have the energy to do anything. And that was one of many things that I struggled with within my eating disorder. And certain foods, like the smells, really bringing back bad memories from certain things that have happened. So I would get those triggers and I would get sick again. And, you know, a lot of the medications that I was on growing up made me very sick. I had a lot of stomach issues and a lot of gastrointestinal issues that my therapist and my doctors at the time said that was part of the reason for my eating disorder, and that the main driving force behind my eating disorder was trauma, and also the issues that I had with my stomach, from constantly throwing up from all the prescription drugs that I was put on by my adopted parents. And so just within having experience with addiction and prescription drugs and things like that myself, like I know how hard that can be, how scary that is, and how dangerous it is to go down the route of prescription drugs and trying to get anything out of it, because that type of shit is so, it can be very harmful and detrimental to a person's health, especially if they're already struggling with things like an eating disorder, and, you know, just all of that, how medication can actually make shit worse is what I'm saying. And having known that type of shit from personal experience and how scary that shit was, yeah. Also, my adoption anniversary. I don't celebrate my adoption anniversary because it's October 17th, and it just reminds me of all of the bad shit all of the trauma and abuse that I survived. So even though my adoption anniversary is every single year on October 17th, I kind of just act like it's a regular day, because I don't want to fucking think about all of the shit that I was put through. Most days, unless I'm making a video about it and educating people on who I am and everything that I've survived, unless I'm doing a video like that where I'm opening up about some of the shit that's happened, most of the time I don't even want that on my mind. I just want to make a video about it and get it off my chest. But October 17th is the anniversary of my adoption, and it is also just a very bad reminder that not everybody's parents actually love them. And it just sucks. So I don't celebrate it. I don't think about it on October 17th, even though, like, in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, allegedly that's what this day is, but don't talk about it. I don't think of it as anything more than just a day in October that I need to be more kinder to myself, and I need to be more gentle with myself due to what that day represents for me personally, and all the memories the trauma memories that are attached to that day, that I have to keep reminding myself on a daily basis that I am a survivor and I'm no longer a victim, and that I don't feel sorry for myself, but at the same time, I also don't allow people to tell me what I have and have been through and haven't been through, because it's very hard for me, and especially nowadays with platforms like this, to keep my mouth shut and to continue going throughout the rest of my life without saying, like, I know what that's like. I know what addiction is like. I know what it's like to be abused and neglected as a child, like others that I know, and others whose music that I've listened to over the years. You know, I've listened to a lot of people's music who have gone through the same experiences that I've been through. And even though I don't idolize anybody and I don't hold anybody on a high pedestal and praise anybody, like, I'll say this 1,000 times over because it's the truth, I will never be a fucking stan, but I know what it's like coming from those artists' standpoint to have gone through those kinds of trauma and to have come through it on the other side as a stronger person. That is about the only thing that I can relate to. Not idolizing somebody who's famous to the point where I'm losing self-respect and I'm losing track of who I am as an individual and as a Black woman. So that's what I had to say on that. Idolization is so unhealthy, by the way. When you idolize somebody, you put somebody on a high pedestal and you act like you haven't been through anything yourself, anything that has cost you a lot in life. Because when I look back on my childhood, I didn't have much of a childhood at all myself. Like, I see myself as one of those people who can unfortunately say that I didn't have a childhood because of the shit that happened to me. But I don't let that stop me as a grown adult from trying to make a better future for myself and trying to work and trying to make money and, you know, doing the best I can. Even if I wind up in rough situations here and there, I know that I'm not going to be in those situations for long, and that I'm just going to have to keep on going no matter what goes on in my life. Like, especially as a stronger, more confident, more self-loving Black woman. A level of self-confident and self-loving that I never was when I was growing up. So I'm really proud of myself to get to this point, to get to where I am now. It took me a very long time to get to this point, to love myself to this degree, and I'm just not going to allow people to tell me, like, what it is that I've experienced or who I am as a person. You know, people who have tried to even make me out to be some kind of mean girl just because I'm Black, and because they've had Black people bully them, that they think that all Black people are bullies. They think all Black people must be going around making people feel like shit. That's not the truth. So it's like, people judge you based off of your physical appearance and based off of what you look like, and they don't listen to what you have to say a lot of the times. And that's one of the reasons why I was really discouraged when it comes to this YouTube channel. I'm like, yeah, but everybody expects me to say something, even though every time I say something, I feel like nobody's hearing me. But when I get supportive comments, like what I got under my videos as of recently, I'm so amazed by it, and I'm so grateful and thankful for it, because The people who do show that kind of love and support are the reason that I continue to make these videos and the reason I continue to speak out and why I do what I do. So I really appreciate you. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.